Welcome to Northwest Newsweek, and thanks for being with us. Area residents got a look at things to come this summer during the 2018 provincial election. Ontario PC leader Doug Ford visited the region in a campaign-style tour of the Northwest this week. He met with the public, industry, and party faithfuls. Adam Riley caught up with Ford in Dryden and files this report.
It's been a month since Doug Ford won the Progressive Conservative leadership, and with 7 weeks left until the provincial election, he's wasting no time to meet with voters in the province. On Monday, Ford met with residents, business owners, and party faithful in Kenora and Dryden at a series of campaign-style speaking engagements.
Together, we will blaze a new trail. We'll blaze a trail of prosperity, the likes this province has never seen before.
In a fashion seen at previous rallies with fiery rhetoric, Ford pulled no punches when it came to describing the issues in Ontario, those responsible for those issues, and his plans to deal with them.
And you've seen this liberal ideology being breathed down her back. I call it indoctrination. And I'm going to pull her hands out of the cookie jar. I'm going to pull her hands out of the taxpayer's pocket. The party's over with the taxpayers' money. It's done. Absolutely done.
When asked what residents in the Northwest could look forward to in the party platform for the June 7th election, Ford says he has several key points, but they were general in nature with limited northern specifics.
They're going to look forward to me getting rid of the carbon tax. They're going to look forward to me lowering hydro rates. They're going to look forward to me putting money back in their pocket instead of the government's pocket, and we're going to create good paying jobs. We'll attract companies here in Ontario. We're going to have this region one of the most prosperous regions in North America.
However, on how he plans to provide those results, Ford didn't elaborate. On his tour of the region, Ford was also joined by Kenora Rainy River candidate Greg Rickford, who says residents want to see change.
He understands the important contributions and the possibility here in Northern Ontario. He also understands our burden, and he's here to change it, and there was a lot of people out here who felt pretty good about what he had to say. This is a change election. I've been in one of those before, and I can feel it, and we feel very good, and I know folks have come to me and said they want that strong voice with experience, who's got a track record of delivering results to go down to Toronto now and make a difference for Kenora Rainy River.
On Tuesday, Ford left Kenora Rainy River and traveled to the new riding of Kiiwetinoong, where he met with residents in Sioux Lookout and Lac-Seul First Nation, alongside Lac-Seul Chief Clifford Bull, who will be carrying the PC banner this election. Ford's tour then continued on to Thunder Bay and wrapped up in Sudbury. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Officials with Ontario's New Democrats have released a statement detailing their reasoning behind disqualifying a Fort Frances man from seeking the nomination in Kenora Rainy River. On Tuesday, Matt Soprovich announced he had been disqualified by the party over historical content on his personal social media feeds. He cited a picture of his bare behind as an example. On Thursday, the party stated they had reviewed Soprovich's social media posts and found several of them to have glorified violence against women or predatory behavior towards women. The release goes on to say the party stands by its decision to build a team of candidates that can be trusted not to say or write things that degrade women. Well, he's served a term as mayor of Sioux Lookout, and now Doug Lawrence is making the jump from municipal to provincial politics. As reported last week, Lawrence has announced his intention to seek the nomination for the Liberals in the Kiiwetinoong riding. The new riding was created with the advice of the Far North Electoral Boundaries Commission in 2017, opting to split the northern portion of the Kenora Rainy River riding. Lawrence has served as mayor of Sioux Lookout since 2014 and says this new riding helped him make the provincial decision.
A lot of the advocacy that I've been doing for Sioux Lookout in Queen's Park in Toronto with the various provincial ministries. We're so interrelated with the North. It's been regional advocacy as much as Sioux Lookout advocacy, and that region is really the Kiiwetinoong region.
On Thursday, the Liberal Party announced that Lawrence has been confirmed as a candidate and will face off in this election against PC Clifford Bull and a yet-to-be-named NDP candidate. Well, new details are emerging on the departure of the Dean of the Law School at Lakehead University. It was first reported last week. Angelique Eaglewoman had resigned her post less than 2 years after she became the first Indigenous Dean of a Canadian law school. Efforts at that time to reach Eagle Woman for an explanation failed to garner a response. But now, a Toronto Star article says her departure comes amid claims accusing the university of systemic racism. In the article, Eagle Woman alleges her efforts as dean were thwarted by the university, which systemically sought to minimize her work. She claims she suffered through a lack of funding, a hostile environment, and negative actions directed at her as an Aboriginal woman. None of the allegations have been proven in court, and university officials have declined to comment, citing privacy concerns. Eagle Woman's reign as dean also saw her become the subject of a reverse discrimination claim. It was brought forward by a former employee who alleged she was subjected to bullying and was fired because she was, quote, a young blonde Caucasian woman. The Human Rights Tribunal told Dougal Media last week that a hearing in that case was pending, but university officials now say a confidential settlement has been reached in that case. Thunder Bay OPP have now released the identity of the victim in Monday's fatal collision on Highway 1117. Dead is 34-year-old Jason Calder of Thunder Bay. The mishap occurred around 12:30 Monday afternoon, about 2 kilometers east of Finnmark Road, when an eastbound pickup truck collided with a westbound tractor trailer. The driver of the transport and a passenger were both transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The highway was closed for about 5 hours while investigators examined the scene. There's still no word on what caused the collision. And this latest highway death comes at the same time as the release of some alarming statistics regarding highway fatalities in the region. According to data provided by the OPP, the number of lives lost on northwestern Ontario highways jumped over 100% from 2016 to 2017. Now that's from 13 deaths to 27. Distracted driving remains a leading cause of the tragedies. In 2016, 4 deaths were attributed to inattentive drivers. That number jumped to 6 in 2017. Seatbelt-related deaths were also up from 4 to 6. But deaths attributed to excessive speed dropped from 5 down to 2, as did the number of drug and alcohol-related fatalities, falling from 7 to just 2. Northern Ontario is seeing another financial boost from Ottawa through FedNor. 2 federal ministers were in Thunder Bay Monday to announce a prosperity and growth strategy for Northern Ontario. It's meant to help growing companies build innovation strategies and create larger capacities across the region. Jason Guidola was at Lakehead for that announcement.
It's a plan to help elevate the middle class and regional businesses. Through funding from the Canadian government, FedNor received additional funds to launch a prosperity and growth strategy for Northern Ontario. Minister of Labour and Employment Patty Hajdu sees this new plan as a big win, not just for Thunder Bay, but the smaller communities that surround it.
One of the things that I think FedNor is really good is looking at regional solutions and understanding that sometimes a small community like Manitowaj or Scriber, who's really struggled with a downturn, might not be able to turn that economic downturn around on their own, but that if there's more of a regional focus on development.
Patty said so well. In the past, when she was advocating for stuff, she would have to go to different departments and figure it out. Now we have an overall robust, comprehensive strategy, a strategy that is really a reflection of what people in the community had to say.
The plan is aimed towards all businesses, from startups to Northern Ontario's existing major sectors like mining and forestry. The challenges they continue to face is retention of talent, a need for more immigration, and connection with rural communities. The minister responsible for FedNor, Navdeep Bains, believes they have the proper approaches to those hurdles.
And that means more investments in talent and people, more funding for financing. We're looking specifically at women entrepreneurship. This is an area that's a priority nationally for our government, continuing to provide more funding for high-speed internet access for a lot of these rural and remote communities, our Indigenous communities as well.
The 2018 federal budget contained a surplus where additional funding was given to FedNor. A total of $28 million is being allocated for the next 5 years for new development. That is in addition to the $25 million it received from last year's budget. Jason Guidola, TBT News.
And another major announcement for the Northwest this week from the federal government, with an investment of $10 million for the Red Lake Municipal Airport. The money will go towards infrastructure work on several taxiways, a runway, and the apron at the terminal building. In a release, Kenora MP Bob Nault says the funding will help ensure continued safe operation for passengers and employees at the facility, as well as maintaining the long-term viability of the airport. It appears the Northwest Local Health Integration Network has found a new CEO to replace the retiring Laura Kokoczynski. According to an internal memo sent to staff at Thunder Bay Regional, Executive Vice President Rhonda Crocker-Ellicott is leaving the hospital to take over the top job at the LHIN. The memo states that Crocker-Ellicott will take over as LHIN CEO on May 14th. Crocker-Ellicott started her career as a registered nurse at Port Arthur General Hospital in 1991 and quickly moved up the ranks. Along with Vice President of Patient Care, she was also serving as the hospital's Chief Nurse Executive and CEO of Nipigon District Memorial Hospital. Crocker-Ellicott was not available for comment, and officials from the LHIN say they had no one available to comment on her appointment, which has not yet been publicly announced. Well, coming up after the break, fire officials across the region are looking at ways to handle the rising costs associated with fire departments in the future. Stay with us. One thing that many communities in the Northwest have in common is their volunteer fire departments, but new National Fire Protection Association standards could bring up drastic changes or complete abandonment of that model. Adam Riley has more.
Professionalization is happening throughout Ontario, and it's going to be tough for some communities.
New regulations and standards will soon be in effect for fire departments across Ontario, aimed at bringing the province in line with other regions across the continent. But Fort Frances Fire Chief Tyler Moffat has some concerns about how smaller communities who utilize a volunteer fire department model will be able to keep up with the training requirements mandated by the National Fire Protection Association and foresees potential retention problems in the future.
Turnovers for volunteers throughout Canada and the province historically, volunteer fire departments are dying a slow death because they can't keep members and train to the standards, and now it's going to be tough for them too, right? They have full-time jobs, they have family. And if they're a shift worker working 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out somewhere, it's a challenge to maintain your family life, a full-time job, and now coming here is actually a part-time job.
Currently, Fort Frances has 7 full-time firefighters and an additional 16 volunteers. The new standards would require anywhere from 19 to 23 firefighters for a standard house fire, meaning all firefighters in that community would have to be at the ready. In anticipation of the changes, Moffat has already worked out a 20-year plan for the department, which covers everything from basic training to recertifications to retirements, even his own.
So the next fire chief that comes in here, he can see where we've gone and where we're heading if they want to change it or whatever. And it's adaptable and adjustable, but it's a visual 20-year plan to show that here's the standard you got to train to. So if someone comes in, they got to start training firefighter level 1, firefighter level 2.
Moffat says firefighter levels 1 and 2 are mandatory courses and can cost upwards of $10,000 American. Couple that in with specialized equipment costs like masks and breathing apparatus, and things can get pretty pricey for communities. However, Moffat believes the future for fire protection here in the Northwest lies with a regional perspective, similar to how ambulance services are delivered.
For corporations and townships that aren't very big, but if you pool your resources and have one fire and rescue service, it can work for you. But training's the big key. You got to train your people and train to the standards, set the bar high.
According to Moffat, Ontario is the last province to adopt NFPA standards, and those are slated to come into effect January 1st, 2019. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The city of Dryden is looking to get things back on track in the community after hiring its 8th chief administrative officer in the past 8 years. Earlier this month, we had reported that Ernie Remillard has tendered his resignation from the position for family reasons. Remillard had recently been in the hot seat after 33 of the city's volunteer firefighters began withholding service. Now the city has prompted its IT manager, Roger Nesbitt, to the position of top administrator. He has 11 years experience as an IT manager.
Model and navigating the ins and outs of the municipal legislation is always a challenge for newcomers, whether you're internal or external. But we have a great senior management team here at the city that will help me navigate those waters and keep me out of trouble. So I feel really good about that.
I think he's going to bring a lot of great experience just as a senior leader in our organization. He knows everyone. He has ties with everyone in all departments, and I think he's very eager to get started, and we're eager for him.
Nesbitt officially started his new position on Saturday and will be attending his first council meeting in his capacity as CAO on Monday. Well, things are going to be a little more secure in Red Rock this year as the town will be investing in its network of security cameras in the community. The town is investing $15,000 to replace a pair of aging security cameras, one located in the downtown area, the other in the town's marina. Mayor Gary Nelson says the town has little crime to speak of, but they advertise the cameras in the marina area for peace of mind for boaters. He says in recent years, the current system, which originally cost over $30,000, has been giving them problems.
The one we got right now is quite a few years old, especially the one up on the main street. We had a lot of trouble with it. Every time a lightning or a good storm comes, knocks it out. We got to call them down from Thunder Bay, so it's starting to get costly. And the one down here on the lakefront, this one here is not working properly either. It scans it for a while and then it stops.
Nelson says aside from being more cost effective, the new cameras will also hold the images captured for up to 15 days. The system is expected to be installed and online sometime in May. Well, the sawmill in White River is getting a fiscal boost from the provincial government to maintain and further develop employment at the facility. In a release, the province identifies the White River Forest Products Mill as a source of good jobs for the community, not just as the sawmill, but in other areas of the local economy, such as transportation, retail, and forestry. The mill also provides work for residents of nearby Pic-Mobert First Nation, who make up 25% of the workforce. The release goes on to say the province will be investing $1.9 million over 4 years as part of the province's Jobs and Prosperity Fund. The money will go towards modernizing and upgrading the sawmill, which will increase production at the facility by 30%, help maintain 161 jobs, and create 15 new positions. Well, we're going to take another short break, but coming up next, an exhibition of the history of residential schools in Canada comes to Thunder Bay. The 100 Years of Loss exhibition arrived in Thunder Bay this past week. It's an exhibition that explores the decades-long history of the residential school system in Canada. Molly Fromer has more.
Over 100 people gathered as the opening ceremonies took place for the 100 Years of Loss exhibit. This mobile display consists of photographs, documents, and explores the history of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children who were forcibly removed from their communities. Lakehead University's Vice Provost of Aboriginal Initiatives, Denise Baxter, says this is an opportunity to give the staff and students a better understanding of what took place.
For many students, thinking back to 1820 is a long, long time ago, but recognizing that the policies of the governments throughout that time has really had a very long-lasting impact on Indigenous people. And so I think it's important for Indigenous students to know, perhaps if they don't already know, how that may have impacted their own family, and also for non-Indigenous students to understand really the reality of where we live here, especially in our region of Thunder Bay.
Over 150,000 Indigenous children attended residential schools, which were run by religious orders in collaboration with the federal government. Children as young as 4 years of age were removed from their family homes and prohibited from speaking the only language that was familiar to them. Many survivors are now attempting to reconcile with family members. We had the privilege of speaking with one elder who lived at a residential school.
You just can't forget what happened and move forward. It just won't happen. It just can't happen. You have to do some inner work, because the trauma, oppression, depression, levels of anger, you have a, because you were pulled away from your family, that bonding was broken.
Well over 1,000 people will be attending over the next 2 days. And for those who are unable to attend, you can explore the exhibit online at 100yearsofloss.ca. Molly Fromer, TBT News.
Blues fans who are planning to attend the 17th annual Thunder Bay Blues Festival are being advised to move quickly if they don't already have their tickets. This comes as festival organizers report tickets have been selling faster than in any previous year. The 2018 Blues Festival will run at Marina Park on July 6th, 7th, and 8th. This year's lineup features many big names such as Sarah McLachlan, Sheryl Crow, and Melissa Etheridge. Tickets have been on sale for less than a month and have already been selling at record pace. Community Auditorium General Manager Bob Halverson says it's the fastest sales rate they've seen in the 17-year history of the event.
Currently at the point now where VIP is completely sold out, and the regular weekend passes are at about a third of the way sold out, so it's doing very, very well. The VIP incredibly sold out in 3 days. When it went on sale on March 23rd, on the third day we were sold out of VIP. That has never, ever happened before. It's no different than this building. If you put the right show on, people come and it sells out. And obviously the Thunder Bay patrons are reacting well to the lineup, and it's showing in the ticket sales.
Halverson also says with the main stage now gone from Marina Park, fans can look for some of the biggest changes in the 17-year history of the event coming up this summer. Well, it's been an empty building with a sign on it for almost a decade now. But if one entrepreneur in Schreiber has his way, it will be a full building with a sign on it come this summer. The former Press Box Pub and Grill was purchased last month by Cosimo Filane in hopes of bringing a new restaurant to the community. The building was repurposed by the municipality years ago and sold to Filane for $1 plus the taxes for the 2018 season. A well-known businessman in Schreiber, Filane says a restaurant is something the town desperately needs.
I had a fellow that stayed with me 20 years ago, and I says, Bill, why are you not staying at our place? Well, he says, cause I got no place to eat. And that sort of impromptu me. I says, it's no good for the community, and it's no good for me. So, and then when this opportunity came up to the point where they were trying to move it, And I had that idea. I says, well, we're going to give it a chance.
It's definitely one of those stories that you do need a restaurant in your community, and to put this this back into to use on your highway, and to have somebody interested in bringing a restaurant to your community is always good news.
Filane says work has already started on the interior and expects it to be up and running within a few months. In addition to the yet-to-be-named restaurant, Filane also owns the Causiana Inn in Schreiber and Filane's Fallen Rock Motel and Restaurant west of the community. Well, meantime, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Leanne Evans. Thanks for being with us, and be sure to tune in next time.